what she wanna do. Lower to the grave, tell you like it is to your face, she don't play. Every chick down for it all, know that she a boss. No competition, no loss. From the Midwest to the A, all them got you tuning in, no delay. Ooh, get you right every time. Keep you laughing on a dime. Tell you truth, no lies, so you can live your best life. Cover all topics, no limits. Got something for your mama and your children, no holding back. No gimmicks, coming on strong, get straight to business. Oh yeah. What she wanna do? Live life, live life, live life. What she wanna do? Live life, live life, live life. What she wanna do? Live life, live life, live life. What she wanna do? Live life, live life, live life. Live life, live life.
All right. Hey, it's your girl Autumn, and I welcome you back to the Lit Life podcast, where I encourage you to live your life autonomously. It's Black History Month, niggas. And we lit.
What's wrong with you?
I don't know, man. You know, I don't have. You know, I ain't got no sense.
She got that one single reefer in her already.
Just one. That's all you need is just one. But so it's Black History Month. So, you know, I mean, I always be blacking it up, like all the way blacking it up on here anyway. But I just feel like things need to be just elevated a little more. You know what I'm saying? We get our little couple of days or whatever. So anyway, I said I was gonna have some black ass guests on here that I have never right, that I haven't had on before. And I want to introduce you guys to someone. Let me tell y'all, listen. I came across his podcast. I don't know how. I think on Anchor or something. And realized that they were in the Atlanta area and that you can actually go and listen to them, you know, live, record the podcast or whatever. And I have been ranting and raving about this podcast ever since then. And y'all hear me. I mentioned it, like I just mentioned it on the last episode. I mentioned it probably once a month. But I want you guys to give it up for Mehka from the Cannabis podcast. Yeah, I still ain't got my little claps on my little thing.
It's okay. I clap for myself, man.
So how have you been? I feel like I haven't seen you in forever, except for the videos.
For real. Not since you was in the studio to do my podcast and you was on Cannabis. Yeah. It's been that long, but you know, there's been a pandemic happening and holidays and WandaVision came out.
I haven't seen it. So you know what? I'm like not a Marvel person. So I have been seeing people tweeting about it. And I was like, oh, I wonder what it is. And then when I saw like it was like, you know, like Marvel stuff, I just didn't even watch it.
Look, I can tell you right now, WandaVision episode 5 messed up my day today to the point where I feel like I missed the interview. Like phone was off. Like, it was literally a lot happening.
That's sad.
Yeah, not even that sad. I was that into it. They come on because they try to cater to the West Coast so everybody has the time at the exact time to watch. So it doesn't come on. A new episode doesn't come on until 4 a.m. in the morning. I was about to sit up and watch. I even called off my trainer that morning. I was like, hey, bro, I got mad work to do. So
I see you've been getting it in the gym, too. I've been seeing you.
I ain't gonna see you till Saturday. But I sat up too late, man. I was tired. Then I ended up watching it around 11 o'clock today. And it's just been sitting on my mind all day. I've been watching Easter eggs on YouTube. I'm so into this show right now.
No, you need me to send you some cat videos?
No.
Oh. Mm-mm. Anyways, so it's good that you're doing good. So listen, we're gonna go ahead and get right into it.
God
damn, nigga.
All right, so y'all know what time it is.
She got the theme music and everything for it. Shut the fuck up.
Yes. So y'all know what time it is. It's everybody's favorite part of the show. It's the Shut the Fuck Up Award. And the Shut the Fuck Up Award, for those of you who have never listened to this show, is basically something I came up with one day. I don't even remember how or why. And I was like, you know what? I'm about to just start telling people to shut the fuck up because this is ridiculous. So a person, a place, a thing, a movement, whoever. Who you got?
I told you, mine would be Marjorie Green, but also I guess we could say add QAnon to that. Shut the fuck up. At what point does common sense start trickling into some of your conspiracy theories that you just got to make people think? Like, come the hell on, man. Any cult, that's what that is. Any kind of radical, stupid cult that would honestly believe that Donald Trump would be the voice of reason through all this quote unquote swamp is insane. That alone is insane to me. But yeah, Marjorie Green, shut the fuck up. QAnon, shut the fuck up, man.
Yes, please. Marjorie Green was mine as well because I don't but my reasoning. So forget all the shit she did. Well, don't forget all the shit she did, but all the stuff she said, all the bullshit. She gets on the news today and says, we can't judge one another.
Ma'am?
We can't judge one another. We all make mistakes. Bitch, no.
Yeah,
absolutely not. We're not doing this. We're not doing this with you. So it's okay for you to go on social media and do whatever it is you're doing and talking about all these conspiracy theories and all these racist remarks and all this, that, and the other. And then you want to say after they took your seat, after they took your whatever the fuck they took from you.
Yeah, they took her off of all them committees. She's powerless basically now.
Right. So now you just about to be making copies or whatever. That's on you, boo. Like, and then she gonna try to say, well, it's like some kind of try to turn it around to make it seem like it was a positive thing or whatever, and that all of this happened. No, bitch, you're canceled. And guess what? Guess how I know? Because they just said it on the news. So
yeah, basically. And the crazy part to me is some of the stuff she was saying, like the lasers from the sky. I'm like sis, you dead serious with this? Like you're now just going through hashtags and saying stuff. At this point, you're just going through hashtags and saying things.
It just doesn't make any sense. I just hate you. Shouldn't have even gotten on the news and said what you said. Basically, you should have just took your L and sat the fuck down because it was just all so stupid. Like it was literally a waste of like 12 seconds for me, and I'm over it. So
yeah, she can shut the fuck up. So can Georgia Power. Now that we at it, Georgia Power, shut the fuck up.
Oh, what they do?
Man, aggravated the hell out of me the day before, man. And luckily for me, I have a prayer life when I wake up in the morning, so I was already centered. But buddy, I was ready to take off on this customer service agent. And I was like, none of this made no damn sense. But hey, I'm stuck here at this moment. But I want to talk to your manager. I'm full white in Black History Month, man. I do want to talk to your manager.
Man, listen.
Yup.
Marietta Power, the wind can't blow. If the wind blows, y'all see me tweeting all the time. I'd be like, oh shit, the wind blowing. Let me plug my phone in because ow. I mean, like literally just little and the lights are out. It happens all the time. My lights were just out last week. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense being that everybody from Atlanta moving out there. Like, shouldn't y'all have enough heads up that we gonna need extra power?
Or maybe is it time to update the power lines? Like, why are they falling? So why do they fall so easily?
I don't know, man. To me, it's almost like one of those Aaron Brockovich stories. Like, I feel like I need to go knee deep in this situation. I think somebody's stealing power out here because it doesn't make any sense. What you are trying to tell me to pay, it doesn't make any sense, man.
And both of us are from up north, so like the issues that they have down here is just so like I can remember our lights going out every once in a while or whatever, maybe like for a tornado, when a tornado warning or, something like that. But just something as simple as like some high winds that are not really, really all that high. Like why it's time to upgrade. Like
you would think they do something, man. I don't know where all this money going.
Hell, we pay enough, right?
Where all this money going to? I pay state taxes. Where's this money going to?
So anyways, that was good. So we got our shut the fuck up awards out the way. So I brought you here today because I think that I have a lot of listeners that are podcasters as well. And again, like I said, I talk about you on my podcast and your podcast all the time because I think so highly of it. So I really wanted to bring you here just so that we can learn a little bit more about you and about how you got to having cash color cannabis. So
Mhm.
let's start with how you got into journalism. Now, I've read some of this and I was just like kind of blown away by it. Like I didn't know what to expect when I was reading it. So I want you to just kind of tell us a little bit about how you got into journalism.
Good story. I feel like I've been a journalist my whole life. I actually made a mention a little while ago how the very first magazine I've ever actually wrote for was one that me and a friend of mine created in middle school. We were baseball fans, and we took some of our baseball cards, we taped them up into, we took some construction paper, taped them all up, wrote little stories, came up with a cover, and we passed it around our class. Like that was our magazine for that day. So I even think back to that moment, like I've always been a journalist. I really jumped into it when I was in college. Like I had a chance to go through this program called Inroads when I was a freshman in college. And and I joked, and I told somebody, it's one of them situations where when you finally get away from a crowd of people who are just like you, and you realize there's so many other things you can do.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And at that moment in my life, I was like 19 or 20 at the time. At that moment in my life, the only thing that I really understood was basketball, hip hop, and that was about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like I worked jobs, but I didn't really pay no mind to anything. But getting into the inroads, you got a chance to kind of get to people who had different understandings of life, and they all came from the same background as me. Like I had a friend of mine who grew up in Franklin Hill Projects who spoke Arabic. You know what I mean? Like stuff exactly. Stuff like that wouldn't even run into my mind. Like my mom loved him more than she loved me after she met after she met him. She was so amazed by him and kept telling me what I can do more. And I'm like, damn, brother, breathe. But
right.
But yeah, it was after sophomore year, and I got into Inroads. I really thought to myself, I want to be a writer. Now, at first, I didn't know if I was going to take the journalism route, but I knew I just wanted to be a writer.
And what school were you at?
At that time, I was at Mass College of Liberal Arts in Massachusetts. And then, so after my sophomore year, I actually transferred. I knew I wanted to be a writer, and I didn't want to be in Massachusetts no more. I just felt like something new had to happen. So I transferred to John C. Smith University. And after that, my junior year at Johnson C. Smith, I actually had a chance to be part of the Johnson C. Smith Student News. So that was my first time actually writing. I was editor, actually co-editor with my good friend now, Aaron James, who's like one of my best friends. We were co-editors of the newspaper. And that really, honestly, like this is probably the first time I told somebody, that was probably the honest moment that really sparked I can do this as a journalist. You know what I mean? Like we was editor of the newspaper. We had to organize everybody else's stories. We had to lay out the newspaper. It was really dope. And that was the first time I really said, I can do this. So I started interning a couple of places, Charlotte Magazine, Charlotte Post. After college, I actually started my own website called lastwordonline.com. That was a hip hop online magazine. And I ran that for 4 straight years, man. And it's so crazy how the internet was back then, because we're talking about 2002, 2003. Mm-hmm. At this time, people still kind of took the internet as a joke. Like the Source had a website, but nobody went to the Source's website. Just to give an example. So Last Word Online was something I was doing that was really some real new terrain at that moment. And I noticed that, I would get about maybe 5 or 6 people who would view the site every month. Like I'm putting up 20 stories. It's cost me $600 a month to do. I'm getting 5 people. But I noticed the 5 people who were there would be managers, publicists, people who are actually in the industry. They were reading what I was doing. So I started getting emails. I started getting CDs. You started getting all this contact from like record labels in New York because of this little thing I'm doing out of Charlotte, North Carolina in my living room. Wow. And coming down that pipeline, I actually had a chance to write for other outlets. So I started writing for Rolling Out a little while after that. They had a chance to see some of my stories, asked me to cover a story in Charlotte. And while I was doing I was on an assignment for them for covering 100 Black men. And one of the editors of Rolling Out was with me, and he saw how uncomfortable I looked that whole night. I had a suit on, I was hot. I'm interviewing these people I don't even know. And he looked at me that time. His name was Al Weems, and Al said, "Young brother, what do you really want to do?" And I said, "Man, if I had it up to me, I'd be writing for the Source right now." And he said, "I don't know nobody from the Source, but I actually do know somebody at XXL, and I might be able to get you there." And yeah, he kept his word. Like when I say I randomly got an email one day from somebody at XXL who said, "We need a story covered in Charlotte. The Jeezy's doing a concert. Can you do it?" And I was so blown away. I was like, "Yeah, you jumped on it, got on the phone call." I hung up the phone before I even realized I got paid to do it. Like it was one of those kind of exciting moments. Like I hung the phone up before they even told me you get paid. But I had a chance to write for XXL. I let Last Word Online go, and I just started focusing on trying to be a freelance writer. And from that time, I wrote for Double XL, Slam Magazine for about 3 years, covering high school basketball in Charlotte, North Carolina. And also had a chance to be editors over at YoRaps.com, Hip Hop Inquirer, and a slew of other outlets. It was really, yeah, like looking back on my journalist life, like it was really a lot that I did in a very short amount of time that, I really need to reflect more on. It was really a cool moment.
It sounds like it. It sounds jam packed. Like you were just that's so awesome though. I mean, because I'm really big on people doing what they want to do, right? Like I'm big on that because that's how you are. That's how you're happy, right? That's what makes you happy. So that's an awesome story. So tell me how all of this kind of got you into podcasting.
Oh, good. Even better question. How it started when I got tired of doing music and tired of writing about music and sports. Like, I don't know if you ever had one of those moments where you just get tired of doing what you feel like is the same thing over and over and over again.
Yes.
And you know for a fact there's a certain level that you can only hit unless they put you in another situation. You know what I mean? Like at this point when you're writing and you're trying to be a freelance writer, it's definitely about the talent, but it's also about who you know in a lot of instances. And if you're staying on a certain level, man, it's more now I got to network a lot more. You know what I mean? Because I really don't want to be here. I want to be on TV or whatever like that. And that wasn't happening. So I actually put it down. Like just like I did with basketball. If I knew I wasn't going to be a pro, I stopped doing it. And when I felt like I wasn't going to be doing what I wanted to do in hip hop and sports, I literally stopped. And this was 2012. I just stopped cold turkey and started just working regular jobs. I was working in nonprofit actually for a place called Work for Progress. We was doing get out the vote measures here in Atlanta. And that took over my whole life. Like I was more about that. Like I was ignoring events. People was sending me emails and requests for interviews. I was ignoring everything. And I was all into that. And around this time, this is 2014. Around this time, I'm working for Work for Progress. Our office did so well in Atlanta. We actually registered 8,000 people to vote. Wow. They asked me to go down and help them in Denver with their office down there because they was having an issue hitting their numbers. So as I'm going to Denver, I'm geeked up because at this time, Denver had just passed a law that made weed recreational. And also at this time, I'm a weed smoker. So I thought that, it was a perfect vacation. That's how I looked at it.
Hell yeah.
2-week paid vacation. So I get down there and I'm working, I'm running around the city of Denver, and you get a chance to go see the hoods in Denver, which you never thought existed. What I mean? Like serious, like Denver's a real place, man. It gets real in Denver, especially at night. But so we walking around, I'm doing my thing, and I'm watching people, and I'm really watching how this weed thing is happening because it's still kind of confusing to me. What's recreational weed? What's legal weed? You know what I mean?
What does all of this mean?
What does all this mean? Because I see the stores, and I see like you could really walk into at that point you could walk into a corner store. And the corner store was almost like every corner store is almost a smoke accessory place. Like you'd go in there and be able to buy synthetic urine all the way down to rolling things. Almost every serious. Almost every store you was downtown Denver. Almost every store at that time you walk down the street would serve some kind of part of cannabis. There would be dispensaries and things like that, but somebody would serve some kind of part. But what I wasn't noticing as I was out there was I noticed how many black people I ran into were smoking weed. And versus how many I saw who were actually in the business of selling weed. You know what I mean? It struck me as odd at that moment because I'm like, it's just weird. And I told somebody, what I first did, especially as a journalist, I like reading newspapers from other cities. I gathered up everything I could find, magazine-wise, newspaper-wise in Denver and in Colorado at that time that even spoke about cannabis. And I took them all home with me to Atlanta. And I sat there, I was just reading. I was getting fascinated. Like, this is so dope. Still want to see no black people. Like, as I was flipping page for page from magazine, didn't see no black people. Now, around this time also, I have a good friend of mine. His name's Royal. Royal is a trained chef. And he was over my house one day and we were smoking weed. And Royal tells me as we're smoking, I think I'm going to get into this cannabis industry. And I said, yeah, that's crazy, bro. I said, I was just in Denver. And he said, man, look, he said, it's going to be something. Watch. He said, it's going to be this big thing. And before you know it. And he said, I've been going to these conferences. I've been trying to learn about these conferences I want to go to because I want to really try to network and learn all these people. And I said, that's what's up. He said, have you been to one yet? He said, yeah, I went to one. And he goes, crazy thing. I was the only black person in the whole room. And I said, what? And it really hit me at that moment. I was like, what do you mean you're the only black person in the room? Like, how does that make sense? He said, nah, for real. He said, at that moment, bro, I walked in there and I was it. So at that moment, I said to myself, I want to do a story about that. And I pitched doing a story about Black people in cannabis at that moment. That's what I was calling it, Black people in cannabis.
Right.
I pitched it to a couple of outlets who I was friends with, and every one of them turned it down or just plain ignored it. They didn't understand what it was either. This is still fairly early. We're talking about 2014 and 2015.
Right.
So everybody turned it down. I thought to myself then, I'm not doing anything for any other outlet. It wouldn't be a shade on my resume. I can go get a camera person and go actually film some of these interviews and some of these people who I know do exist.
Right.
And this is through Google searches. I remember at the Royal Level started doing Google searches like, nigga, there has to be some Black people in this. There has to be some Black people in this. I know I had these magazines. I know this man sat in this house and told me this, but it's impossible that in the weed industry, there's no Black people. And so I started doing Google searches, and you would find certain people. We would find certain people across the country. And I was like to myself, I can do that. Like I thought, we could do some interviews and we could video them, and I would do it and I'd make a documentary. It would be called The Color Green. And eventually a friend of mine added the Cash Color Cannabis at the end of it, call it The Color Green, Cash Color Cannabis. I was like, that's dope. So we shot that. Me and my good friend Danny Digital, we went and filmed Color Green, Cash Color Cannabis from 2015 to I believe about the beginning or middle of 2016. Okay. And it was crazy. Like we had a chance to go to everywhere from LA to New York to film, and we had a lot of people who come through Atlanta. It was really dope at that time. Even looking back at some of the footage, some of the people we were able to capture at that moment and what they're doing right now is amazing. And also some of the people we were speaking about that moment who were so amped about this industry who aren't even in it. Like they're so far away from it, it's not funny. So it's crazy to even look back at some of that. But me and Danny went and filmed that, and it was cool. With documentaries, one, they're expensive, and to keep running from place to place, kind of filming that with your own money was going to be hard.
Right.
And I remember, again, God's playing through this whole entire story. I'm doing an interview about the Color Green Cash Color Cannabis because I had a chance to do a couple of interviews for a couple of outlets at that time. Our Creative Loafing was one. We had a good run. Like people really was picking up on what we were doing locally. Okay. So I sat down and did a podcast interview, and this is crazy how you said how I got to the podcast. I did a podcast interview with this guy named Last Name Good and Jimmy Hennessy at the studio called Live Hip Hop Daily. So I sat down with Good in hand, and I knew Last Name Good because he's a music producer around the city for this group called Paid in America. So me and Good is talking. I remember asking Good, what the hell is a podcast? And he said, man, imagine it like a radio show, but it's not a radio show. And I was like, well, why don't we just call it a radio show? He said, no, well, we're going to call it a podcast for this moment. I said, I agree.
Right. So it's not a radio show.
We sat and did the interview. And I remember thinking it was such a cool format. It was such a cool thing to do that I walked over to the dude who runs the Live Hip Hop Daily. His name is Herb. And I asked Herb, I said, yo, do y'all have any spots open for somebody else to do a podcast? And I told him the concept of what I wanted to do. I said, I want to kind of do the documentary, but as a podcast. I feel like it would be better for me to do it this way. I probably could tell the story better. And he said, man, if you can, the only day we have open is Tuesday at 9:00. If you can make Tuesday at 9:00 work, you can have it. And I said, yeah, I can make Tuesday at 9:00 work. And we did our very first episode of the Cash Color Cannabis. This is my first time saying that word, podcast. It was December 2016. My good friend Chris J was a guest. And we've been running from there, but that's how I got to the podcast. It was a long story that started as a documentary that coincidentally landed me in the studio where I'm recording now at. And now we're 5 years in with the podcast, over 200 episodes, and man, it's just been fun. I really need to reflect on these moments a whole lot more.
You do.
Yeah, that was a lot. All that happened.
So in your first year, let's just think back to like your first year of the actual podcast.
Yeah.
Can you remember someone that you interviewed from that year that you'll just never forget?
Freeway Ricky Ross. Freeway Ricky Ross. Freeway Rick. And it's a tie. Freeway Ricky Ross and Kwanzaa Hall. And for two different reasons. One, Kwanzaa was the very first politician, I believe. And I say this, I believe, because it was a month where we actually had a bunch of politicians. So I'm not sure if he was the very first one, but he was one of the first who I felt like was on a level that it would have said something about our brand who would come on the show. You know what I mean? He knew we was 420 friendly. He knew what the gist of the show was. And at the same time, Kwanzaa was running for mayor of Atlanta. And his pitch was, I'm going to decriminalize the city of Atlanta. Like, matter of fact, he came on our show and he debuted that on our show, that he was going to announce that as the city council, that he was going to pitch for city decriminalization. And I remember it was almost like a watch party around the city, around, saying this little group of people who were in this cannabis space at this time.
Yeah.
We were all watching to see what the vote was going to be. I remember when the vote happened, Instagram went nuts that day, man, that they did decriminalize cannabis in Atlanta. But I always remember that episode because Kwanzaa, again, even now, Kwanzaa's sitting in the House of Representatives. Kwanzaa is a man who came on and really gave us a chance when nobody should have. We were still fairly brand new. And I don't know if a politician at that time, as somebody where he was at, I don't know how many others would have said yes. But he said yes first. And after him, we had Vincent Ford, all the way down to Ted Metz. When Ted Metz was running for governor, I say this happily, Ted Metz walked away from the debate, right? Left that debate and came over to Live Hip Hop Daily to do an interview with us about why he should be running for governor.
Yes.
Stuff like that was a trickle down because of the Kwanzaa Hall interview, and I know that. And then there's Freeway Ricky, just because it's Freeway Rick. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
to be able to have Freeway Rick not only come on the show as early as he did when we were our first season, but it was one of our first times we would do our RSVP where we allow people to come down to the show. And I remember getting, we got over 100 RSVPs, and we easily had, between that night, because Rick was actually late, people waiting for him, we had about 80 people in and out that whole entire night. And if you was there that night or even see some footage from it, by the time he walked in, standing room only, and it was easy, 60 people still standing there, clouds of smoke, waiting for this man to talk. And we had a great conversation about his life, his life as his life in crime, I guess to say a life as a drug dealer. But even better, we had a chance then to speak about the role that Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Oliver North, and that whole administration played as far as with the Iran-Contra affair as to why he was ever even a drug dealer. Why we ever had any drug dealers in New York, in LA, anywhere like that. The only reason we had that is because their inability to, what they had the ability to do as far as moving drugs into our country. So we had a chance to talk about that with Rick. And I always remember those episodes the most about our first season because they were both big opportunities for us as we were first starting out.
Right. Okay. So at Live Hip Hop Daily. So I've been there.
Yeah.
Very nice studio. Have you guys always invited guests, or has it?
No, I'll tell you right now, to this day, we don't invite guests. Guests show up. I mean, people show up. To this day, we don't necessarily invite people unless I put out an RSVP. But there's hardly ever a time that we don't start the show and somebody's either yelling outside, hitting the DM. That's why I got to keep my phone by me by that time, by the show, because I don't have somebody who can run I don't have a PA anymore. So literally, I got to monitor my phone to see who's texting, who's DMing, who decided the last minute on a Tuesday night they wanted to come down to Live Hip Hop Daily to come watch the Cash Color Cannabis podcast.
So, okay, but you do have what's the name of the event that you hold on one Friday a month?
Oh, one Friday we do Atlantabis City Market. And we're actually trying to change the name to Atlantabis Open Market. We're actually moving from the venue. Shout out to Urban City Market, Tay and everybody over there. But we need to move. Yeah, we need to move a different space. As you know, we just need more space at this point, at this moment.
Yeah.
And it's the right time. You know what I mean? We're moving into a new year. So it's a good time to do that. So we're going to change the name to Atlantabis Open Market. We will be doing that we're actually going to be doing that bi-monthly. So our next one's going to be in March. The last Friday of March, we're going to be doing that. So I'll give y'all details about that sooner than later. But we still do. We invite guests. Like I have no problem with guests coming by the podcast. We do have events where we drop RSVPs. Like we have one for this Tuesday where we have a food vendor who's going to come up during our show. So I was like, yeah, we got about 20 people come up. That'd be cool. So this nice we do that. But on a general, we look up, man. Just people be coming. I'm like, man, y'all don't be doing nothing on Tuesday.
I don't even know how I even came across to even get like the RSVPs and stuff, but I'm so glad I did because I'm like, oh, this is like so cool. I think I came to maybe the first time was the Urban City Market. It may
I
have
feel
been.
like the first time you came to the studio, you couldn't get in. Like you're one of those people who got
It's
stuck at the door.
every time though. Like, well, probably not the last 2 times, but I always get stuck at the door.
Yeah, it's almost like the door is our bouncer. Like
Right.
so many people, so many people get stuck at the door. Like I can't get in. I was like, yeah, I can't give you the code, bro. It's like, but give me a second. I'll get somebody to come downstairs for you. But yeah, so many people get stuck at that door.
So, okay, so I read that you are a full-time, you're still a full-time journalist at this point?
Yeah, I'm a full-time journalist employed by Cash Color Cannabis and CashColorCannabis.com and Cash Color Cannabis Presents.
Okay, and so that's what my next question was going to be. So you have Cash Color Cannabis. I've been seeing that you're getting ready to premiere a Cash Color Cannabis Presents. So could you tell us a little bit about that?
Cash Color Cannabis Presents will be a web series that we're going to do. It's going to be 6 episodes a season. And it's just me kind of doing some interviews similar to this. You know, we're able to talk about, we're able to speak to some people I know throughout the industry who can kind of touch on certain topics that I feel like are hot button topics or something that people just kind of want to know. Our first episode is my good friend V Castillo. She's we were discussing Clubhouse and how Clubhouse might be the one canna friendly platform on social media, you know, so we had a chance to talk about that, and we just finished our first season, and I'm very excited about it. It's an evolution of Cash Color Cannabis overall. You know, we have the website cashcolorcannabis.com. We do a lot of stories. Clearly, we have the podcast, but I felt like, you know, there has to be again an evolution of the brand. You have to constantly evolve what you're doing, and this would have been the perfect platform. And really, the pandemic kind of helped this. Like I would have never thought about doing a web series until we had a chance to start doing Zooms and StreamYards. And I remember telling Nicole Scarlett, who's my videographer. I remember telling Nicole, I said, man, when I looked on CNN, they were doing Zoom interviews. I was like, bet, Cash Color Cannabis Presents coming soon. Let me start working on that. Yeah, let me start working on that.
And so I failed to mention, well, I failed to ask initially because I'm like, yeah, Cash Color Cannabis, but like, tell everybody exactly what Cash Color Cannabis is. What is this podcast about? Who is it for?
Cash Color Cannabis, the podcast, the website, and Cash Color Cannabis Presents, the web series, they all fall in the same theme. Like we want to curate a higher level of conversation and spotlight the Black experience in cannabis. So we focus on, especially with speaking about the podcast. When it comes to the podcast, we focus on trying to have black owned brands, Black influencers who are in the cannabis space. Some might be known, some might be on the come up right now. But we love be able to have them come on and share their stories and just kind of speak about what they're doing and how they got into this space. We really try to make sure that, like I said, we highlight and we stay heavy on that we shine a light on what we feel like is the Black experience in cannabis. And when it comes to Cash Color Cannabis, we look at that as that encompasses everything from music to politics, pop culture. So we touch everything from that. Like right now for our Black history content, we've done everything so far from highlighting Black-owned rolling paper lines to some of the major name rappers who have not only just changed the music industry, but now trying to change the cannabis industry. And we got way more content to come down the line like that for Black History Month. But that's what Cash Color Cannabis is. We call it's a higher level of conversation, but we're there definitely to highlight and make a. You still there?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. I'm sorry. My screen flipped. Yeah, still there to highlight the Black experience in cannabis.
Okay, so also I know that you have a clothing line.
Yes, hey, I'm wearing it.
I am too.
Viper Life.
If y'all see it on YouTube,
turn up.
So, what made you decide to do a clothing line? Tell us about Atlantabis.
Oh, the fun Cash Color Cannabis. You know, that's
right.
The fun Cash Color Cannabis. Cash Color Cannabis ain't cheap, but Atlantabis spawned out of my head because again, I needed to find a vehicle that would help fund some of the things I wanted to do with Cash Color Cannabis. And Cash Color Cannabis isn't expensive. Let me stop there. It's not super expensive, but I still will need to have funds to do such things. You know, like hire people to do this, do that. So the clothing line came out of that idea solely. Like when we first did, matter of fact, Atlantabis City Market is part of why I came up with the idea of Atlantabis clothing. I used the Atlantabis City Market as a way to just sell it. You know, like I thought that would be cool to have a pop up where we can invite out some vendors, but I really want to sell my own stuff. You know, that'd be the best place to do that. So Atlantabis started off as that, just strictly initially as a vehicle to help fund cash colored cannabis. But with everything else that I do, you know, not bragging, but with everything else I do, you really got to come up with a point, and it has to start evolving. And so it started looking to me like it has to be more than just a signature Atlantabis shirt. Like, what else can you think of? And I went back to my conversation with Freeway Ricky Ross, and I was thinking about the time I was talking to him about Ronald Reagan and all them. And I said to myself, I don't think a lot of people know what Reagan, Bush, and I mean, as much as it's common knowledge, I don't think a lot of people know about it. So
it's like they don't realize it or something, or they missed it.
No, at all. And it's so crazy because it's been part of so many movies. But we came up with our drug lord shirts, as you know. We got Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Oliver North, and across their face, across their body, we have the term drug lord. And it's a concept we came up. We call it conceptual fashion now. Atlantabis clothing. We conceptual fashion. We want to make clothes that make you think and give you more than just a fashion statement. It's fashion that makes statements. And with our drug lord collection, we thought, that was the best way to roll that concept out. We're going to make statement fashion, you know, and when you're wearing this is going to be a conversation piece. So understand that. And people are going to ask you, who the hell is Ronald Reagan, or why you think he's a drug lord? And it's going to be great conversations you're going to get from that.
Or even just, why are you walking around with Ronald Reagan on
your
shirt?
I've got that one too. You know how many people I had to explain what that situation was and to watch their face as it happens. I'm really blessed that we've been able to actually watch the Iran-Contra affair. Me as a kid growing up, I was able to see it. But also, the more I think about it, like, how are y'all missing this? This has been in pop culture for forever. Like, even the last movie Tom Cruise did, when he was the pilot, that was about the Iran-Contra affair. He was literally flying in guns and drugs into America. I'm like, how are y'all going to these movies and not thinking to yourselves, some of this should be connecting with you?
If y'all don't know about it, go watch the Netflix Crack.
They are bold with it. They basically are bold with it.
And you know
Ronald Reagan
crazy?
did this.
What's crazy is, especially right now during Black History Month, I was just talking about this or thinking about it to myself. Like, I know this stuff happened. You know what I'm saying? But I'll watch something like, you know, like the documentary Crack and be hella pissed. On fire. Like, don't even want to talk to nobody for the rest of the evening, because y'all gotta watch it. If you don't know how the hell Crack just popped up, you need to watch this documentary.
Look, when I look at somebody like Reagan, because my father, rest in peace, my father voted for Reagan twice, and it doesn't shock me how many Black men and women I see who supported Trump. And I tell people, like, you better watch what you're voting for, because I'm pretty sure if my father was alive, he would have regretted that vote for Reagan, because like him, he thinks a lot. You'd have saw how that trickle down pattern happened. I'm looking at this opioid crisis now. And I'm like, y'all better watch this man Trump, you know what I'm saying, and what you're about to get in return. Like, what could continue to happen in our communities. I'm seeing a lot of pill poppers. I'm seeing a lot of people. A lot, man. And yeah, just watch what you do. You know what I'm saying? He gave me a lot of Reagan vibes early, and I was like, I already saw that for 8 years, and I saw how that affected our community in the most drastic way possible. But that's part of our clothing line. We have our drug lord collection. We have our Atlantabis signature collection, like I'm wearing right now, and also like the shirt you're wearing. Our next concept, which was Return of the Vipers, which was inspired by a blaxploitation film, where I came up with this idea of a badass Black biker babe who goes through city to city, kicking ass, taking names, and smoking weed. Yes. So it's definitely a dope concept. I love actually Return to Vipers. That's actually my favorite thing in Atlantabis.
That's what's up. Oh, I am so glad you came to my podcast.
Girl, I was making chicken too, so I stopped to have this conversation. Because I was making some chicken. I'm trying to tell you, WandaVision messed me up today. I'd have already missed an interview that I have to apologize for. It just threw my whole day off completely.
Oh my goodness.
Trying to figure out every Easter egg and every little small detail I missed from this show. Like, it's addicting. Like, but I love it. It's a great show. If you get a chance to watch it, now's the best time.
Maybe I'll try it.
Girl, binge watch 1 through 5 right now, and I promise you, your face is gonna be like this by the end of the day.
I mean, but is it okay? So, but is it like hero-ish? Like, is it like
I can't even,
cartoonish at all? Like,
girl.
or is it something that I could really sit and be like, damn? Like,
Let me tell you. Now, most people, like my sister was telling me how confused she was when it was first coming on. She's like, Rodney, I'm confused. Like, I don't get this. And I was like, I'm trying to explain it to people because I've been knowing about this for months. There's literally, shameless plug. There's a YouTube page called Cosmic Wonder that does Marvel, DC. They cover the comic books, movies, everything. But they specialize in getting Easter eggs and getting early news. So I've been following them for a minute, and they've been giving them basically the gist of what WandaVision was going to be for a while. So I was one of them people just like, get the popcorn ready. Like, I know what's about to happen. I'm not nervous about the black and white because I understand what they're doing. They're going from era to era. It's just so dope. Like, I don't really want to give it away.
All right. I might check it out. You might have sold it.
Last night was such a shocker that, like, oh my gosh, that I get it. It froze me for the moment. I sat on YouTube trying to figure out every single possible, what else did I miss in those 41 minutes of TV?
All right. You might have sold me. I might have to go watch it. All right. So thank you for coming to the Lit Life podcast. I look forward to seeing you, whenever some shit clear up. I don't know.
Hey, girl, come on out the house, man. We got Hawaiian food on Tuesday, man.
Y'all gonna have what now?
We're gonna have Hawaiian food on Tuesday. Come on through there and come get you a plate.
I might do that.
See. Go ahead and hit that link, man. Come RSVP and come on down and hang out. Plus, my good friend Joe Salome with Georgia Hemp Company. They're actually opening a new branch on next Friday. They open a new branch in Decatur, and he's gonna come on the show and chop up. And we're actually gonna be doing some work with him down there on Friday. It's gonna be amazing, man. Come through.
All right, I just might. All right, so Mehka, tell us how we can reach you and tell us where we can find Cash Color Cannabis.
You can find Cash Color Cannabis. We'll start at cashcolorcannabis.com. You can go down, you can scroll down and see all of our social media handles. But if you're on Instagram currently, you can find us at Cash Color Cannabis. If you're on Twitter, we're at Cash Color Canna. Facebook, we're Cash Color Cannabis and Cash Color Cannabis podcast and blog. Both of those are ours. Please subscribe to the Cash Color Cannabis podcast on all streaming platforms. Just search Cash Color Cannabis podcast. We're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Pandora, YouTube, Stitcher, all major platforms. And please, every Tuesday night at 9 p.m., watch us on livehiphopdaily.tv and then watch the replay of the episode on Live Hip Hop Daily on demand on YouTube.
And find me on there because I was on there back in October. So
she sure was. We had Autumn in there. Autumn came with us, man. Podcast.
Yes, it was lit. So, all right. So real quick, y'all, y'all know I got to let y'all know about Podcast Happy Hour. Y'all know what it is. Me and my girls live Saturday, February 20th, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I am the host. It will be on my Blackity Black Ass platform for Black History Month. So y'all already know how it's going to be. And until y'all hear me again, peace.